You know, in all my years on this bench, and we're talking over 40 years here, you think you've seen everything. The desperate, the remorseful, the angry, the manipulative. But that Tuesday morning in September, 3 words were spoken in my courtroom that I will never, ever forget. 3 words that made the entire room go silent. 3 words that would change everything. I own you. Let me tell you about Richard Vandermeer and what happened when a billionaire walked into my courtroom thinking his money could buy anything, including justice itself. I remember getting to court that morning early, like I always do. Been doing it for 40 years. My father taught me, Frank, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. So there I was, 8:20 a.m., reviewing my docket with a cup of coffee Christina made for me. Strong, black coffee, the Italian way. And I see his name there, Richard Vandermeer. City ordinance violations, contempt. Now, I'd heard of Vandermeer. Everyone had. $18 billion, they said. Real estate empire. Media companies. The kind of man whose name appeared in the Wall Street Journal more often than most people check their email. But money doesn't impress me. You want to know why? Because I grew up in Providence when it was rough. My father worked 3 jobs construction during the day, security at night, weekend work at the docks. He taught me that it doesn't matter how much money you have. What matters is your character. And character, well, that's something you can't buy. Christina leaned over that morning and whispered, Judge, this one's going to be interesting. Interesting? That's putting it mildly. The case itself started simple enough. Vandermeer owned this building downtown, the Aurora Tower. Beautiful building, 43 stories of glass and steel. But turns out, its construction violated dozens of building codes. Then there were environmental violations. And when neighboring small businesses complained, Vandermeer's people responded with threats and intimidation. A young prosecutor named Jennifer Morrison, 28 years old, fresh out of law school, she built the case, documented everything, and when Vandermeer's lawyers tried to make it disappear, she wouldn't back down. I liked her already. The fines had accumulated to $1.7 million. Vandermeer hadn't paid a single cent. Not because he couldn't afford it. The man spent more than that on his yacht's annual maintenance. No, he didn't pay because he didn't think he had to. So here we were, September 14th, 9 o'clock in the morning. Or at least, it was supposed to be 9 o'clock. At 9:07 a.m., 7 minutes late, the courtroom doors opened. Richard Vandermeer walked in like he was doing us all a favor, just by showing up. 6 feet tall, silver hair, perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people make in a month. And he wasn't alone. 4 attorneys flanked him. 4, not 1, not 2 4 lawyers, each carrying expensive leather briefcases. He didn't acknowledge me, didn't apologize for being late, just strolled to the defendant's table and started whispering to his lead attorney like I wasn't even there. You know what I thought in that moment? I thought about my father, how he'd stand in line at the unemployment office during the Depression, hat in his hands, showing respect even when he had nothing. And here's a man with $18 billion who couldn't show basic courtesy to a courtroom. Mr. Vandermeer, I said, keeping my voice calm. Thank you for joining us. I trust you understand why we're here today. One of his attorneys stood up quickly. Your Honor, if I may. I raised my hand. I was speaking to Mr. Vandermeer, counselor. He's capable of answering for himself. The attorney sat down like someone had pulled his chair out from under him. Vandermeer leaned back in his chair, had this little smile on his face. I understand the accusations, Your Honor. I don't understand their merit, but I understand them. The merit will be determined through this proceeding, I replied. But first, let's address your tardiness. This hearing was scheduled for 9 o'clock. I apologize, Your Honor. Traffic was unpredictable. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was what someone says when they're not actually sorry, and everyone in the room knows it. Traffic is unpredictable for everyone, Mr. Vandermeer, I said. Yet somehow, the prosecutor, the court staff, and every single person in this courtroom managed to arrive on time. His smile faded just a little. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially over something he considered trivial. Noted, Your Honor. I let that moment sit there for a few seconds. You learn, after 40 years, that sometimes silence says more than words. Then I opened the case file. Let's proceed. Prosecutor Morrison stood up and began her presentation. I could see she was nervous. Young lawyers always are, in high-profile cases, but her voice was steady. She laid out the violations, one by one. Building codes, environmental regulations, harassment of small business owners, 1.7 million in unpaid fines. Your Honor, she concluded, this isn't about one mistake. This is a pattern of behavior demonstrating a fundamental disregard for the laws everyone else follows. Then Vandermeer's lead attorney stood up. Charles Whitmore, 63 years old, partner at one of those big downtown firms. The kind of lawyer who charges $500 an hour and thinks